Okay, some of the slides will be the same like the one that Professor Ho showed before, so I will skip those. Just to remind what Jane said, that myeloma is a disease of the elderly, and it is important to realize that over the last few years, myeloma physicians are starting to paying more and more attention to the management of the real old patients who sometimes have comorbidities, and I hope to share this data with you. These are data from our own center, which show that in recent years, at least 40% of our patients are older than the age of 75, so this is a special patient population that we need to work on. And it is important for all physicians to keep in mind that if you have a healthy 70-year-old gentleman who develops myeloma but does not have other conditions, his life expectancy is actually another 10 years. So, and even for an 80-year-old person, his life expectancy is 7 or 8 years. So one should keep this always in mind when deciding about the treatment of myeloma patients. These clinical manifestations of myeloma have been presented in details, and the prognostic factors as well. Just the cytogenetics are important today. In every patient with myeloma at baseline, 414 translocation and 17p at least should be checked with FISH, and probably at the time of relapse, the 17p translocation should be evaluated again, because we know that this is one abnormality associated with bad prognosis, and this can increase over time. Just a piece of information on the smoldering myeloma, just to let you know that in the near future you may be seeing a change in the paradigm of approaching this disease. We would like to identify these high-risk patients because these patients are at a risk to develop a complication rather sooner rather than later. And today we have data from Spain which were published recently in the New England Journal of Medicine to indicate that if in these high-risk asymptomatic patients you give lenalidomide dexamethasone, you not only improve time to progression but also the overall survival. Having said that, the standard of care for asymptomatic myeloma remains observation. However, there is active clinical research in the high-risk asymptomatic patients to see which is the best approach for them. The importance of complete response has been stressed before. In order to achieve the longest possible event-free survival, this approach was presented by Dr. Ho for younger patients, induction, high-dose therapy, consolidation, maintenance. There are still open questions that need to be addressed by ongoing trials. You have seen this over and over today, the improved response with the novel agents, and thus we now have data just with consolidation. And just to explain what is consolidation, consolidation is a limited treatment duration that one may receive after high-dose therapy, and the aim of consolidation is to further reduce the amount of disease. And there are data to support that a combination, for example, of bortezomib with thalidomide and dexamethasone is effective in that aspect and is prolonging the survival without progression of the patient. Again, the data with thalidomide, important data to support the use of thalidomide in patients who do not have bad cytogenetic features, as Dr. Ho already mentioned. The data from the United States with the maintenance with lenalidomide. The role of allogeneic transplantation, I fully agree with Dr. Ho. One may want to consider it in a young patient who clearly has adverse features with a life expectancy of 2 years or less. And if this procedure will be applied, it is better to be applied early in the course of the disease, because when the patient has several relapses, it doesn't work. Now, for the elderly patients, there are some recent information which is changing our approach to treat them. First of all, there are data today to support that even in this agent group, it is important to obtain a complete response, and I fully agree with Dr. Ho that when we say transplant eligible, ineligible, it doesn't mean that the prognosis may be different, is that we choose high-dose therapy in the patients who can tolerate it and who can have essentially zero mortality from the procedure. However, we can achieve complete responses even in the older patients, and this is associated with an improved survival. MPT, standard of care throughout the world, the data are well established. VMP with bortezomib, survival advantage, even with long-term follow-up. And now I would like to spend a few minutes in a piece of information which is under development, and it applies to the elderly. We have elderly patients who can be very fit, and these patients should receive the treatment like the younger patients. We have elderly patients who can be unfit because of comorbidities or other conditions, and finally we have elderly patients who are really frail. And there are ongoing trials or trials that have just been completed which indicate that if you adjust the dose of treatment according to the fitness and to the frailty of the patient, you can significantly reduce early mortality due to toxicity. Because the main problem, if you administer standard therapies at standard doses in an unfit patient, is that you will increase the probability of a side effect, and we know that if you have grade 3 or 4 side effects, severe side effects, this is associated with treatment interruptions, discontinuation, and at the end of the day, you impair in a negative way the survival of the patient. If you adjust the dose of medications according to the fitness and the frailty of the patient, you can get results here which are very impressive. You can see that the fit and unfit patients now have the same survival. For frail patients, survival is worse, but still much better than expected before. And finally, I would like to share with you some recent data on two important novel agents that are soon to be available throughout the world. One is calfizomib, the other is pomalidomide. These are the data with calfizomib. Calfizomib was given to patients who had failed both bortezomib and lenalidomide, so this is a patient population with far advanced myeloma without many treatment options. With calfizomib, response occurs in approximately 25% of the patient. For a patient who responds, the median duration of response is 8 months. Overall, it is 4 months, and the subsequent survival more than 1 year. Pomalidomide with low-dose dexamethasone was approved based on this trial, which compared it to high-dose dexamethasone. Again, responses up to 30% for patients who have received pomalidomide and low-dose dexamethasone for a certain period of time, associated with an improvement in the progression-free survival and in the overall survival of the patient. So we have one of the few prospective randomized trials in relapsed myeloma, which shows also a survival advantage. And finally, a new class of agents, the monoclonal antibodies. These are antibodies against surface antigens which can be detected on the plasma cells. For many years we were trying to find the rituximab of myeloma, and I believe that we are getting there today with the anti-CD38 monoclonal antibodies. Elotuzumab is one monoclonal antibody which is in advanced phases of evaluation along with lenalidomide and low-dose dexamethasone, both in the frontline setting and in the relapse setting, and we are very eager to see whether the addition of elotuzumab to lenalidomide dexamethasone will improve the results. We have very promising results from phase 2 trials. But daratumumab, the anti-CD38 antibody, and there are 3 of them from different companies, appears to give very exciting results with doses that exceed 4 milligram per kilogram per day. You already have a 40% response rate, which is very, very important because these are far advanced patients, and you can see with doses that are more likely to be used in the future, you can have a very long progression-free survival. And also the important with the issue with these monoclonal antibodies is that they don't cause neutropenia, they don't cause thrombocytopenia, they don't cause nausea, they don't cause peripheral neuropathy, so they can be combined very easily with other agents, with proteasome inhibitors, with immunomodulatory agents. Thus, today we have already 2 novel agents available for our patients, or will be soon available, pomalidomide, calfizomib. It is very likely that daratumumab will be approved by the end of the year in the United States in an accelerated phase, and thus one may envision a combination therapy in the future which include different class of agents, because we know that the eventual long-term control and cure of myeloma will necessitate many drugs, several drugs with different mechanism of action to cover all different clones of the disease. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Thanos. We actually have, Thanos has to go next door to give his talk, so, but we would have time for one question if anyone had a burning question. There's one question up there.
Yeah, I read something that you mentioned fine-tuning treatments according to the fitness of the patient. I read something about another way of targeted treatments according to some kind of genetic profiling. Is that on the cards? How far away is that? And also dendritic treatments?
Yeah. The gene expression profiling is under intensive investigation, and I believe today that we are not at a stage that we can decide a treatment according to the gene expression profile of the patient. Also, vaccination is another area in myeloma where there has been an interest. There has been some progress, but I believe not as much as we would like to be able to propose as a standard of care to many patients.
Is that underlying virus which causes cancer, because it causes myeloma? Is that targeting underlying viruses?
Well, I'm not sure that we have a specific virus as a target for myeloma today. I mean, there are some hypotheses that infectious processes may be sometimes responsible to have a transition from the MGUS state, which is a malignant state, but without causing any harm to the patient, to develop myeloma. Something is happening at this phase, because not all individuals will develop myeloma, but we don't know what. There is some theories that perturbation of the immune system, chronic inflammation, some viral infections may be causing that transition.
Well, thank you very much, Thanos. I think we should thank Thanos in the usual way for 2 weeks.